Hey guys, and welcome back. How are you? I hope you're doing well. If I could see, I'd give you a hug, but I can't. But just visualize that through this microphone, I'm reaching out. Here's the embrace, giving you a hug. Now, I hope you guys have been having a great day or a great start to your week, wherever, great end of the week, wherever you are when you're listening to this. I hope all is well. And if it's not, guess what? We can get it well because I definitely understand that aspect too, that life can life. Okay. But what we're going to do is we're going to get back on this horse and giddy up, and we're going to get her done. All right. And that's what I'm here to kind of help you through, actually. The point of this podcast is that sometimes you might be in a setback error, but I'm going to go through it with you. And just like I have people who go through it with me, so I understand. Hugs. And if you're like, my week has been going great, I'm loving hearing about this. So let's get into this podcast for today. So I want to kind of first share what made me do this topic. So recently we had a couple of our good friends come over. They're really close friends. We love them dearly. Just all the above. It just works out really well. It's just one of those, easygoing couples. You don't have to force anything. We laugh, we chat, kids get along, etc. So we were having our usual adulting conversations. And my good friend, she brought up the fact that she had to get some things done with her business. And she was saying like, I spent the past couple of nights really not sleeping because she works as well too. So this is like, second source of income. And she was like, and I had to get all this done. And so my husband went and asked, well, how long did you have to get this done? And so she, hit us with the, that Oprah face where it's like, shrugs. So we all started laughing like, okay, so you had a minute. So long story short, with us laughing about or talking about how she may have had, and we all understand this, had a lot of time to get this thing done. She got it done. That's all that matters. But she asked a really important question that started to, not just her question, but the responses from the husbands. Let me tell you, the husbands came through. Okay, the responses from the husbands really brought out of my memory, like something that I talk about on this podcast or something that I thought this would actually be a great new topic, or something to talk about today. So anyway, she goes, but why is it so hard? Like, why did I have to take all that time to get it done? Why is it so hard to just sometimes get these things done? And her husband goes and hits us with the first gold nugget and he responds, men, one word answers, results. He hit her with that. And we all stopped and looked at him. He was like, results. If you're not getting the results that you want. And so that's why you're not motivated to keep going or getting things done on your timeline. And we're like, give him some snaps. We hit him with the, jazz poetry, cannons to the left of them, cannons to the right of them, cannons of thunder. And my Jeffrey, if you don't know where that comes from, I can't talk to you. No, I'm kidding. Just figure it out, guys. I'm sorry. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Anyway, I probably quote Jeffrey, Raphael de la Ghetto often. I'm just going to say that. People who know me know. Anyway, so we gave him his finger snaps because I was like, true results. Results, guys. We want results. But then Crazy O Maurice, which is my spouse, he hits us with a double whammy. He said, consequences. So we like, I'm intrigued. We listening. And he said, he came with this twofold. Like one, the fact that, once you understood the consequences, if I don't get this done, that fire was lit under your butt. And we were like, true. And then he goes, also, the consequences, you don't have enough consequences is essentially what I feel like his point was. Meaning, if this is what you needed to do to eat, you would have got it done. If this is what you needed to do to have a roof over your head and pay bills, you would have got it done. And I was like, sir, again, you hear them hard snaps? We were snapping really, really hard because I was like, sir, you know what? And then this is where I started to like remember certain things. And I was like, you know what? This is true because different people are motivated by different things. I said, some people are motivated by results. Other people are motivated by consequences, and you definitely need to know which one you are, because if you're that type of person where you're like, if you tell me everything that could go wrong, that's just going to make me shut down. I don't really care about it. I'm a glass half full person. Paint to me the beautiful picture. And I'm like, wow, yes, I want that. I want this improvement. I'm going to get things done, get her done for that reason. But if you're another type of person, which sometimes I feel like I might be this type of person, again, I don't like exposing myself on this podcast. But if you're somebody like, the rainbows and the unicorns, that's nice, but That's not going to do anything for me. Now, if you tell me things are burning down, the building is crumbling, my behind be like this. This is me jogging right now, y'all. This is me jogging, and it's terrible. But if you tell me Rome is falling, whatever the people say, Daenerys is burning up the palace, all the above, my behind be. That was me fake keyboarding. Okay, I move quick. I just don't like that. I've been like that since a kid. I don't like to get in trouble. That might be the connection. If you're a kid that like beatings, you don't mind the beatings, and you're like, but give me some candy, you might get some results. That you're the results person, okay? But if you're a kid like me, like I'm scared of beatings, don't give me no beatings, okay? Then that might be what motivates you. So that was a very, very weird way to describe that. I was like, this is so true. And at the moment I didn't realize it, but then I was like, next day I was like, aha, I think I want to talk about this because this is connected to, we didn't quite use the word, but this is connected to goal setting. And why? Because when we're setting goals, we think setting goals is what moves us forward in life, but it's not. Setting goals is not what moves you forward in life. It's the executing on the goals. It's the achieving. It's the success that not only gives us confidence and keeps us, again, motivated, but it literally moves the ticker forward. And so if we're going to progress, not only do we need to set goals, but we need to have a method on getting things done. And so, in this podcast, we're going to talk about #getting good with goal setting.
You're listening to We All Go Forward, a podcast on self-leadership through setbacks. With ownership, action, and growth, be set back, only to be catapulted forward into a more progressed, truer you.
All right. So in this model that I'm going to give you today, we're just going to get right into it. You'll see that contrast. And that's where, I started thinking about that. You'll see the contrast of how we got to really pay attention to the good things. What are some benefits? But we also have to pay attention to obstacles, as well, too, because the obstacles are where I'm jumping ahead of myself, but the obstacles are that's the thing that literally stops us, guys. So let's just get into it. Let's start with the first letter. So good, you saw it in the title. It's an acronym, G.O.O.D. The letter G in this acronym stands for, you guessed it, goals. But before you're just like, okay, got it, goals, I want us to talk about this a little bit. So what are we doing in this step, in this model, right? The G step. The goals part is literally, what do I want? What do I want to see? What do I desire? And you have to be very specific here, but not just that, you have to give yourself permission. Because again, if you're anything like me, sometimes you don't ask yourself what you want enough. Sometimes it's hard to be honest with yourself. We might think a goal is, what sounds good or what we're supposed to say or what feels automatic. But I challenge you to really get to the heart of, what does Kimberly want? Give yourself permission, right? Like sometimes when I feel like I'm having a hard time getting clarity, and when I'm having a hard time being honest with myself, which happens, I'll give myself this scenario and I'll be like, if you took a truth-telling serum, somebody gave you this pill and said, you take this, you can't tell a lie, or you'll be very, uninhibited, right? And no one could judge you, no opinions, or even if they, that just no judgment, like even if people thought, the thing that people would say is, that's too big, that's too small, that's too selfish. All of you, but what would you say? I tell myself that. And that just, I don't know, it makes me take a load off, and it makes me be honest enough to say my goal would be, or this is what I want, and this is what I need, and this is what I desire in life. And so be like that with your goal. Take a bit of a truth serum, okay? Of course, I don't know where you could get any on the black market. We're not talking about any actual truth serum, but use your imagination, folks. Take a bit of a truth serum and just give yourself that permission to set goals, your true goals, okay? And just in case, not that I want to go on a tangent here, but that episode I did at the top of the year about stop wasting your time, we talked about values, right? And how understanding your values helps you make decisions, right? Because your decisions should be aligned in line with what you say is important to you in life. Well, once you kind of figure that out, this is a great time to start using this model to now set goals. Because what are those things that I want to get done? What are those things that I want to see change in my life in order to, again, see my life align with my values, see my life unfold in a way that's true to me. And so maybe what I'll do is I'll use a real life example or just a simple example, and we'll kind of use that throughout every step so that way we can see how it's applied. So let's say a recent goal I had, which I did take action on, which I'm grateful for, and you might have, is I wanted to restart therapy, but let's say for you is just to start therapy. You've never done that. And so that could be my goal. That's actually pretty specific. Start therapy is very simple. But let's say you didn't know that was what it was. You might be specific. Like a goal for me right now is I just want to be happy with myself. And I don't feel like I'm doing that right. I'm feeling that way right now. My goal might be to stop feeling so volatile emotionally. You might not be expressing it, but again, inwardly, it might be a war zone in there. And so if you're noticing these things about yourself, and if you're just honest with yourself, you might say, this is what I want. This is what I desire right now. And so I want to start therapy. That's my goal. And so we move to the next letter, which is our first letter O, which stands for obstacles. And again, sounds very obvious, but let's get a little bit more granular with this. So if the G is what do I want, this O in obstacles is for what are those obstacles literally? What might stand in my way? Like, what are those things that might literally bring me getting this done to a halt? Like, we're talking challenges, true challenges. And again, any little thing, because the things that might bring it to a halt, those are the things that do bring it to a halt. This is what I kind of started talking about, where I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But when we don't execute, when we don't see progress in our lives, it's because sometimes we don't assess the enemies, right? We talked about this in one of the episodes in one of my fun facts where we talked about the arsenal. And I was saying, like, a lot of times we're not assessing who's in the zone, who's in the combat zone, who we got to go after and pick off. Well, this is that area. Like, we're not literally getting a good grasp on what gets in our way. And so when it comes to starting therapy, for example, if we're going to continue with that example, obstacles for me or for you could be cost. Listen, I ain't cheap. But when I say the therapist be like, cha-ching, cha-ching, the dollar sign, the price, yesterday's price ain't today's price. Okay. I'll be like, dang, to talk about my feelings. And that's not all you're doing. I'm not minimizing therapy to that, because therapy has helped me. But you be like, dang. And actually, I love that I said this, because we'll talk about that in the next step. But anyway, we're just focusing on the obstacles right now. Nothing else. It costs. Cha-ching. Yesterday's price ain't today's price. They want the big bucks and they earned it. Another obstacle might be time. Listen, this is, first of all, you might think like, so I'll use me as an example. Again, I'm a nurse and I work overnight for past many, many years because it works better with my children. Well, listen, if I work overnight, that means I sleep during the day and therapists work during the day. Obstacle. Not just that, okay, time. So most nurses, you never have the same day off every week. Some nurses might, but for me, my schedule fluctuates. So a lot of therapists, I'm just thinking, if they have clients that they see every Monday at 11, every Tuesday at 1, maybe this therapist might ask me to be like, I can only see you Wednesday at, XYZ. And I'm like, dang, I don't have every Wednesday off. Obstacle. These are real things that make you say, you know what? Forget it. I'm not going to even try. You see, sometimes it's not that we even start, guys. It's one thing when we start and then we hit obstacles that make us stop. But sometimes we hit obstacles that even stop us from trying, from even starting and initiating. So this is where you really want to get, again, what are those things that might literally bring this to a halt? The next O. So I have two things for this letter O. One, in the actual good model, this O stands for options, but I have seen this model described different ways, even called different things, but it's essentially the same thing. And I've seen this O stand for outcome. And in this podcast, I actually want to introduce both of those titles because I think they both apply. And so going with the first O, options are literally that. What are my options? What do I got? What can I do? Right. And so using that therapy example, it might be, okay, now that I know what I want, my goal, now that I know what might stand in the way, My options could be, well, maybe I can't do in person all the time. A lot of therapists, especially since COVID, do virtual. So maybe I can try to find a therapist who has that. If I feel like, you know what, your girl I'm volatile. I need somebody right now. I might say, if I got to go in person, maybe I got to find somebody who's 5 minutes away versus somebody who is an hour away. Even though the person from an hour, they seem like they're meeting checking all the boxes. Sometimes we fall in love with people through a computer screen. I've never online dated, but potentially you have, and you can speak to that better than I can. But in terms of therapy, I be checking people's profiles out, and I say, this is the one. This is my gal. She used to be my girl. And then I look and I see my girl, she lives about an hour away. That's not going to work. But Toxic Kimberly says, I can make it happen, Kevin. And then just like that, I'm going to fail because the reality is I just told myself the obstacle. So why on earth would I think I could drive to somebody an hour out? These are the things I do, y'all. It's not safe. It's not stable over here. Whereas I could say, okay, second person, this is my guy. So she's 5 minutes away. Why can't I just give her a chance? I'm not going to know everything from the profile. And not just that, you might start and realize, wow, you are my gal or guy. Okay. And then you just were judging things simply from a profile. Crazy. And then you might luck out just by starting the process again, because some of us just are scared obstacles get in the way of us starting the process. You might luck out and find somebody who meets both check marks, which is what happened to me, where I'm like, oh, perfect. This is what I'm looking for. And guess what? Right around the corner from my house. I was like, wow, look at God. Okay, so those are options. Other options might be, maybe I got to do this weekly. Maybe I got to do this because, maybe it's intense right now. Maybe I have to do this once a month, which comes with its different obstacles as well, too. Because if I do this once a month, maybe I won't get the results I want as soon as I want them, right? In the time frame that I'm looking to have them. So those are the options. But then that other O, the other title for this letter O is outcome. And so if my options are my options, the outcome help us look at the why. Why do I want this? And what would I get out of it? Like literally, what are the positives? What are benefits to achieving this? What are ways that this would improve my life? And so you see already in these first three letters, we've kind of really tackled some of those things that I brought up in that example with the husbands, bringing up the results and the consequences talk, because you're literally kind of going through those things. You're talking through all those aspects. And so regardless of what motivates you, you're kind of having all those things laid out on paper and in your thoughts, and that's really important. And so that brings us to the last letter, which you probably can guess what this stands for, but it's decision. And the reason why this letter is so important, because the decision is not just, so you thinking about, let me go back first. With that O, with options and outcome, right? It's in the good model, it stands for options, but I introduced the outcome aspect. What I didn't say is that the outcome can help you now look at your options differently, which will help you in the decision step. Hopefully I didn't just confuse you. But for example, like I was saying, if my options were, I could do this weekly or I could do this once in a month. And if my outcome is, if I do this, like therapy, I will be able to speak about my issues, right? I will have an emotional outlet. Maybe you're someone that you feel like you don't have anybody to kind of speak about these issues with. And maybe it's just literally you. Maybe it's you and your children. Maybe it's you and people who are not very emotionally available, or maybe they're going through something right now. Or maybe they would be great, but you just don't feel comfortable speaking about certain topics with them. This gives you an outlet. Those are your outcomes. This gives you ability to speak about your issues. This gives you the opportunity to learn strategies, right? We talked about if you are a person who maybe you're feeling volatile, or maybe you're just not happy with yourself. This is the outcome. This is the beautiful outcome that I see, like as I'm mapping out, that I'll get from therapy, for example, right? And so now if I look at all those outcomes and I'm looking at my options, that's going to help reframe that for me, right? So maybe if you're a person, you got to know yourself. If again, in person is where you feel like you connect better, maybe virtual won't allow you to be honest with yourself. Very honest. Maybe virtual, you can't get away from people. Maybe you work at home and the kids are always home, or somebody else is always home. And so there's no alone space. You might be like, okay, in order to get the outcome I need the option for in-person is looking more prominent. You see how just going through those things just gives you a little bit more clarity. And so I kind of talked about the other example too, that maybe I was going to go once a month, but maybe I'm very volatile. Maybe I'm very unhappy. Maybe I really need strategy. So the weekly is looking better for me right now. And potentially if I can make a sacrifice to push for the weekly, even it costs, like I'll make that sacrificial cost to do weekly. Maybe soon I could go to once a month and then save a little bit of my Mario Brother coins. Okay. So now I feel comfortable to say this brings us to the decision step, where the decision, if we're looking at the options, it helps you choose from your options, right? It's the what will I do now? But the other thing is looking at your outcomes in terms of what can I get from this? It helps you now, make a decision there too. Like, how can I plan now to get that outcome? So the decision is what will I do, but it's also helping you work through how will I overcome my obstacles? How will I achieve my goal? What are the steps that I will go through in order to get this outcome? And so that's your decision. And so just from that, using a therapy example, again, you might be like, well, I'm going to go with that frequency. I'm going to go with that time frame. And using myself for an example, talking about my schedule. So since I was like, dang, I work overnight. Again, she was definitely on it helps if I can kind of keep this on the same day every week, given what she was doing with her other clients, which made sense. So I had to just make the sacrifice, y'all. I chose a day because the outcome, I saw what it is that I needed right now, certain things that I needed to work through right now. The outcome was like, I need that outcome. And so even if for a short time, I'm going to choose this one day every week. Some days I'm off. Some days, guess what? I chose a time frame. I was able to, thank goodness, to choose a time frame where I might sleep for an hour or two, wake up, do the session. It's not ideal, but guess what? Who is this for? This is for me. Who is this? Who am I moving a ticker for? Myself. Versus if a month from now, 3 months from now, I'm like, oh, I'm still not feeling great about this, or I'm still not having good strategies for this. And it's like, well, I didn't do what I said would help me accomplish that. So I hope that makes sense. So that is the GOOD model. Again, it stands for goals, obstacles, options/outcomes, and decisions. And so just a couple more things I want to give you guys as we wrap up this episode. I was doing some research on why is this method so good? Why does this method yield results, right? And I ended up coming across a version of this method, like how I was saying that sometimes people call it the GOOD method. There are other names for it. And in this instance, this was called the WOOP method, which stands for wish, outcome, obstacle, and plan, which is the same thing as the GOOD method. But it was this article providing like some research that is done in psychology as to why this type of method works. And so this article said that one of the key findings from this research is that more than simply setting a goal is needed to ensure success, which I kind of talked about earlier. And it says instead, it is crucial also to consider the potential obstacles that might stand in the way of achieving the goal and to create a plan for overcoming them. And so again, we literally just talked about that. So this was really great to find research backing this up. But it also says one more thing that I didn't think about, but it's very true. And I feel like we've talked about. It said another key finding is that visualization can be a powerful tool for achieving goals. By visualizing oneself overcoming obstacles and achieving the desired outcome, you can increase motivation and improve your chances for success. So this is good. And what that made me think about, I'm assuming that's what they're talking about, is the goals part. When you're setting the goals part, when you're talking about what you desire, what you want to see, that's vision. That's visualization. You're picturing yourself, seeing yourself as your best self, right? The thoughts that I use to conceptualize, we all go forward in my mind when I first was trying to make sense of it, is that we're not as we should be. A lot of times life just puts on scabs or we take on these wrong layers. You are not what you will be. And so you are somewhere inside of you. And so you have to have these goals, right? Seeing, visualizing what the true you is, like what you will be, what your destiny, what your outcome, whatever it is that you want to call it. And so as you kind of keep this in mind, that just summed it up. That visualization is actually a tool that we all can use to help achieve goals. So those are two good takeaways on why this method is transformational, why you would actually get results from it. And then there's just a couple other things I want to tell you guys. So first thing I want to say is be flexible. And I really think this was important to say at the end, because I feel like, again, it might not be true, but when we talk about goals, we all might have a certain default as to what areas we feel like we got to set goals on. And all I'll say is there's no wrong place to have goals, right? So if your default is financial, nothing wrong with that. I just want to say, keep in mind those other areas that you might be overlooking or might be thinking that doesn't require goals. You might think that's just an emotional thing. You don't set goals there. You just kind of hope it happens, or you just work on it. No, you set goals. You set a goal. You think about the obstacles, you think about your options and outcomes, and you make a decision or a plan. And so if your goals up till now have been financial, maybe you want to be open to setting emotional goals. If they've been physical, set financial goals. If they've been spiritual, set physical goals. If they've been in your leadership, because we talk about self-leadership, set relational goals, and vice versa. But be very flexible and understanding that you have so many parts that make you you, and it's really important to have goals in all those areas. And you might not tackle them all at once, but sometimes I think when we're feeling unfulfilled, we might automatically default to, okay, well, let me work on this. And there's that honesty aspect. You might get to the heart of the matter. Like me, I got plenty of goals, so many goals. But then when I started to, like I said, right now in the season of my life where I said, where do I start? Right? There's that decision making too. Where do I start right now? And for me, it ended up being in that therapy, because I felt like if I can get this right now, I'm going through a little something here. If I can get some tools under my belt to keep me strong where I'm already strong, or to kind of help me navigate areas where I'm feeling very weak right now, then this is going to set me up to win in other areas of my life. And it'll be good just to get that pat on the back to see, look, I accomplished something. Okay. I said I wanted to start something. I did it. I've been sticking with it. I see the results. I see that I'm not having those consequences, or I saw the consequences that would occur had I not done this. And so I can do this in another area of life. The last thing that I want to leave you guys with is a statement from Darius Daniels, who I often quote a lot. But he says that goals aren't reached through strength. Goals are reached through strategy. And that is very profound, and actually made me think about something that my therapist told me recently, where she talked about, it's not the same thing, but it's the same concept, where she talked about how, to help me, she said, a train can run with or without the caboose, but it can't run without the engine. And she said, if you think about the caboose as your emotions, but think about the engine as your mind, meaning that the train of your life, you're working through some things, you're not going to always, the emotion part, the caboose, your train can run with or without it, meaning you're not going to always feel like things are working. Like the strategies you're implementing, you're not going to always feel like they're working. You're not going to always see the light to that, but it's fine. It's working. The feelings are not what matter, but you and your mind, you and your decisions, you and your steps, that's what's going to take you through. And that was a really good reminder. And, just going back to that Dr. Darius quote of goals aren't reached through strength, they're reached through strategy. Listen, you're not going to always have the strength. We talked about this as well too. You're not going to always have that willpower in the car with you. You're not going to always have that chugging you along in the train, but the strategy, what's in your mind, your know-how, that's going to carry you through. And so if you take this model and you say, I'm not going to always have the strength to get all my goals done, but literally, and when I'm feeling depleted, when I'm feeling weak, if I'm saying to myself, what's my goal? What do I want? If I'm saying to myself, what's going to get in my way, and what plan can I make to deal with that? If I'm saying to myself, okay, what are my options now then as a result? And what outcome will I get from this? And if I say to myself, then what am I going to do? And I do it, that's the important part. If I say, what am I going to do? And I do it, you will reach the goal regardless of whether or not you are strong or weak. And that's the beauty of strategy. That's the beauty of going forward. And that's the beauty of self-leadership, because that's how you apply self-leadership to a setback, is literally you are leading yourself through something hard. Right now, what might be hard is making decisions or accomplishing goals, but we're going to lead ourselves solely by following the steps. Listen, I know you're feeling tired. I'm with you right there. I know you're feeling like, I can't do this, but let me be the first to tell you, somebody told me I could, and I did, and I'm here to tell you you can. And here's the wonderful fun fact in all of this. Fun fact, it's not the person who feels strong who necessarily achieves. It's not even the person who feels good about their goals that gets a warm, fuzzy feeling about it who achieves. It's the person who follows the steps. They walk the walk, they talk the talk, and they achieve. That's our fun fact for today. My question is, and always will be, will it be your truth? And I believe it will be. Hey guys, thank you so much for rocking out with us in this episode. Listen, if you are feeling we all go forward, I ask of you, subscribe. I don't want you to miss whenever our episodes drop. Also, remember, as we move in the right direction, that is forward and progressing, never stagnant, we become a resource to help others move in the right direction as well. And the cycle continues, but only if we move. If you go and I go, then we all go forward. Let's get moving.